Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Math with Dr. War. This week I'm going to be publishing basic skills videos where I'm going to be looking at decimals. So we're going to start with adding and subtracting decimals. Now when you have to add or subtract a decimal, there are only three little rules you have to follow. Line up the decimals by their decimal point. You're going to add or subtract in columns. And your final step is to just bring down the decimal point. So let's begin. So here I have 5.17 and I'm adding to 3.7. So again, I'm going to line them up by their decimal point. So I'm starting with 5.17 and then I have 3.7. Now if you have any empty spaces, fill them in by zeros. And then we're just going to add or subtract in columns. So since this is an addition, 0 plus 7 is 7. 7 plus 1 is 8. Okay, I'm going to insert my decimal point here, and 5 plus 3 is 8. And you're finished. Your answer is 8.87. Suppose you have 0.0678 added to 2.39 plus 5. So again, let's line them up. Let's start with the first decimal, which is 0.0678. I'm now going to line up my 2.39. Now notice this 5 here. This is a whole number. Whenever you have a whole number and you want the decimal point to go in the correct place, think of money. So if I thought of $5, I would put my decimal point and then put the 2 zeros to reflect that I don't have any cents. So the decimal goes in the correct position. I'm going to add zeros as placeholders, and I'm just going to add. So this will be 8, 7, 9 plus 6 is 15. Yep, 15. Carry the 1. 3 plus 1 is 4. My decimal point. And 5 plus 2 is 7. And there's my answer. 7.4578. If you're subtracting, the same thing. So I'm going to start with my first number, which is 653.9. I'm then going to line up the decimals with the other one, which is 56.067. If you have any empty spaces, fill them in by zeros. And in this case, I'm subtracting. I can't take 7 from 0, so I'm going to borrow from the first non-zero term, which is the 9. So that becomes 8, and then this 0 becomes 10. Remember, I'm trying to take 7 from 0, so I'm going to borrow from the 10. That becomes 9, and now this becomes 10. I can take 7 from 10, that's 3. 6 from 9, 3. 0 from 8, 8. I'm going to insert this decimal point right here. Can I take 6 from 3? No. So I'm going to borrow from the 5, which becomes 4. That becomes 13. 6 from 13, 7. Can I take 5 from 4? No. So I'm going to borrow from the 6. That becomes 5. 5 from 14, 9. 0 from 5, 5. My answer, 597.833. Now when you're adding decimals, they don't have to be all positives. You can have some that are positives and some that are negatives. So you have to remember your rules for integers. So I have negative 12.57 plus 8.2. So I know that when I'm adding integers and the signs are different, I'm going to perform a subtraction. So I'm going to go on the side and I'm going to subtract, and you're going to subtract the normal way that you do with whole numbers. So big number first, which is 12.57, and then the 8.2, notice I lined them up by the decimal points. I'm going to subtract, so 0 from 7 is 7, 2 from 5 is 3, my decimal point. I can't take 8 from 2, so I borrow from the 1, which becomes 0, and the 2 becomes 12. 8 from 12 is 4. So my answer is 4.37. But who is the bigger number? The 12.57. So I'm going to keep the sign of the larger. So my answer is negative 4.37. So remember, when the signs are different, we subtract. So just take the 12.57, subtract the 8.2, and we keep the sign of the larger number. So the 12.57 is larger. So when we subtract, our answer is going to be negative. Again, if you're adding two negatives, the rule is when the signs are the same, you're going to add. So I'm going to take 18.2 and add it to 10.8. And then we keep the sign of the larger number. Who's the larger? 18.2. So your answer is going to be negative. And then go on the side and do your addition because these are decimals. 8 plus 2 is 10. Carry the 1. 8 plus 1 is 9. 1 plus 1 is 2. Let's not forget our decimal point. So our answer is negative 29.0. And again, remember, if you're on the test and your answer is multiple choice, you may not see this 0 right here because it's not significant. So your answer is just negative 29. Now if we look at it from a point of algebra, in linear equations, you can have decimal. Negative 2.8 equals to n plus 1.3. So I'm trying to solve for my variable, which is n. I want to isolate it. So to get n by itself, I need to get rid of the 1.3. That's connected by addition. So I'll do the opposite. I'm going to subtract 1.3 from both sides, and I'm going to try to line them up under each other. That's eliminated, so the n is isolated. But remember what happens when you are adding your decimals. And your decimals are integers. So remember the rule, when the signs are the same, what do? We add, and we keep the sign of the larger. So always remember, if you're adding two negatives, your answer will be negatives. And this is nice. We don't need to go rewrite this. We can add. 3 plus 8 is 11. I'm going to put my decimal point and I'm carrying my 1. And 1 plus 2 is 3 plus 1 is 4. So my answer is negative 4.1. And we're finished. Suppose we have n plus 4.6 equals 0.7. My aim is to isolate the n. I have to get rid of the 4.6. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to subtract 4.6 from both sides. So that goes, my n is isolated. Now here you can't actually do your computation as this, so we're going to have to rewrite it. But we know that when the signs are different, this is positive and this is negative, we do what? We subtract. So I'm going to have to go down here and I'm going to subtract. Remember, big number first. So the 4.6 is first, then the 0.7. I'm going to subtract. Can't take 7 from 6, so I'm going to borrow. 7 from 16, that would 9. Decimal point, 0 from 3 is 3. So I get 3.9, and who's bigger? The 4.6. So my answer is negative 3.9. Last one, I have y minus 3.6 equals to 4. I'm solving for my y. I need to isolate it. I need to get rid of the 3.6, which is connected by subtraction. The opposite would be adding 3.6 to both sides. Now remember, this is a whole number, so I'm going to think of money. $4, 4.0. Here's my plus sign. This is eliminated. There is the y. I have my 6 point, and 4 plus 3 is 7. And I'm finished. My answer is y equals 7.6. Well, this week I'm going to be doing some basic skills. This is my first video and it was on addition and subtraction of decimals. Hope this has been helpful. Good luck in your TASC examination.